Top 5 teams on upset alert. Now, some of these games, this is kind of a strange week because I do think there might be something in here I'm not catching, but I do think that this is kind of a weird week where there's not a lot of gap in some of these teams, or the gap is like so huge that I wouldn't be comfortable saying that they're on upset alert. But number 5, Tennessee, 3.5-point favorites over Texas A&M. Neither of these teams are really all that exciting right now, but I just have a feeling that even at home, Tennessee's in trouble here because I think A&M's going to want to wash off that game last week. But we'll see. Is Alabama going to beat A&M twice now that they've put themselves behind the 8 ball in the SEC West and they don't want to do it again? Tennessee is kind of floating through here right now, and this would be probably their best win so far this season. It would definitely be their best win so far this season. So we'll see what happens with them, but they are certainly on upset alert this week because they are the favorite over A&M as we head into the week.
Yeah, I don't think that they're super heavy favorites, as you pointed out. I think this is almost close to a pick'em type of a game in some ways. But, yeah, I mean, I think you have to be on upset alert as you are the slight favorite. Been a long time coming, I think, for Tennessee to get a win over A&M. So, it's just weird that this game's not nearly that hyped. This kind of goes to my argument of if everything's a big deal, is anything a big deal?
Yeah.
And so when you talk about the Super League and whatnot or whatever, Tennessee A&M feels like it should be a monster game, but it doesn't. It just feels like it's a kind of another game that's on the schedule. But on paper, it's super interesting. And like you said, Tennessee hasn't. Compared to last year, last year they were the bee's knees and they were all over the place and everything was cool and it's been much quieter. But they lost a lot of star power. Whereas for A&M, they need a win.
Well, if this was an NFL game, like Matt Rule was talking about, you could lose 2 or 3 games. If this was an NFL game, this would be a highlighted
huge
game.
Yeah,
because I know it's different, but yeah, both. This is is it a must? I hate that term must win. Must win for who? If one of the two.
A&M, yeah. That would be their third loss. They can't, it's a must win. I'll tell you, it's a must win for Jimbo Fisher.
Yes.
Because he, in particular, needs to show that, okay, you can lose a game and then you can go beat a team that I think most that you're pretty even with in Tennessee. So, anyway, number 4. Wazoo, they play Arizona this week. They are 8-point favorites right now. But Arizona is knocking on the door of getting that win for Jedd Fisch. And so Wazoo, while they're at home, all the 8-point favorite, they're really good. You've heard me sing the praises of Cam Ward constantly. I think I mentioned him in the top 5 yesterday. But they do have to be on upset alert because Arizona, USC, Washington, they are knocking on the door.
They've lost by 9 points combined to Washington and Southern Cal.
Yeah,
USC.
So if you're Wazoo, you better watch out because they're chomping at the bit to get one, and you're the next team in the way.
No, they're feisty and they're capable of knocking you off. They haven't been able to pull off the full meal deal just yet. But yeah, I think Washington has to be cognizant of that and look at kind of how they defended USC. I was talking about earlier. They just sort of just sat back and hey, you got to beat us in front of us. And we're able to kind of contain Washington a little bit better that way. But obviously, different teams, different strategies and whatnot. But they've been competitive and they are kind of on that cusp of getting that big win that you can really, rally around and get excited about. It was a bummer though for Arizona earlier this week. They lost their big 5-star commit in Elijah Rushing.
I saw that.
Looks like he could be leaning to Oregon. So that was a bummer because that's a big deal for Arizona. That's a big deal for the Big 12 with Arizona rolling in to get a big 5-star guy like that for Jedd Fisch. So that was a bummer, but man, go beat Wazoo and you'll be feeling a little bit better about things.
And they're playing without DeLauria, right? And then Fafita is playing the quarterback position and playing okay.
Jaden DeLauria is a fun player, but he's also a headache at the same time.
You're on a roller coaster.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Very, very much so.
Yes. Sometimes it's fun and sometimes you get nauseous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just hair's blowing and you're loving the ride, and sometimes you realize the metal bar's not down. Oh my gosh, hold on to this thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to ride again. I'm getting sick. Right. Number 3. TCU. This line moved a little bit, now down to 4.5, but they're at a flashpoint in their season to me right now, where they're sitting at 3-3. They definitely did not expect to be 3-3. They got beaten up against Iowa State last week. BYU comes in, and TCU's going to be playing with their backup quarterback. BYU would be the first new Big 12 team to get a win over an old school Big 12 team. And TCU seems especially on the 2-game skid, very vulnerable right now, even at home, given everything that's going on here. And BYU could be getting hungry for that first, hey, we're in this conference too. With you guys now win, I think TCU is at a very vulnerable spot in their season.
Yeah, and we forget sometimes they weren't even an original old TCU.
Yeah,
they were a second wave, like West Virginia. But, yeah, I definitely think this is worthy of upset watch. I just can't imagine TCU's not going to play a much better game than they played against Iowa State. But crazier things have happened. Like, how are they going to play with a different quarterback, for an entire stretch? And the Chandler Morris news stinks. But, last week that was bad, man. They had 4 picks. He's hurt. I mean, just That was just a really stunning result to me last week, them losing to Iowa State. So, yeah, I think it's very fair to put them on upset watch. And BYU's a team that's been kind of hard to project, like, how good are they really? Like, they're good, but, like, how good are they? You know what I mean? Like, how good are they really? And I think we're still wondering that about TCU as well. So, yeah, this is going to be a really interesting result in Fort Worth on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. Number 2, and this line has moved from 1 to 3.5, but Kansas going to Oklahoma State. Look, they're not going to have Jalen Daniels. I don't think we can count on that. They're not going to have him. And Oklahoma State is just one of the hardest places to play. I think maybe outside Big 12 circles, people don't understand, but like going into Stillwater, you are going into a place where
they're banging stupid wooden paddles on the padding in the stadium.
Yeah, all that stuff. And what you've done to that point seemingly defies logic when you get there. It's such a it's like the Twilight Zone in Stillwater.
It is an afternoon game, though.
Yeah, it is. That's good news. I guess. I mean, you're gonna get drunk. You're gonna get drunk, but maybe they're not quite.
Well,
as
drunk
fun.
At night is worse than drunk during the day, right? I mean,
I guess it depends on your perspective.
Yeah,
but,
I guess. Yeah, it depends.
I think that Kansas here, like they've got to be careful because with Jason Bean, Jalen Daniels is in this game. I may not have put them on there because I just think that he's going to play much better than Alan Bowman. But Oklahoma State might have found where their lane is now with what they can do. So we'll see. I think Kansas got to be wary everybody has to be wary going to Stillwater, but especially this week.
Yeah, and I say the stupid wooden paddles lovingly because that is a great feature of games there. And I say that probably out of frustration because my one memory of going to Stillwater was their big upset win over Baylor when Bryce Petty and company were just kind of rolling along, and then they played them at night, and it got into be an ugly, ugly game in favor of the Cowboys, and you always hear about those wooden paddles. So, yeah, I think that'll be a great environment, certainly much better than it would have been had Oklahoma State not won last week, but now that they've won, it's like, all right, what is this, like you said, Paul, what is this turning into? Is this turning into something? Are they, like, on track now, or – Is that a blip last week? Like, what is that exactly? But Alan Bowman, it's been okay. I think that, him and Jason Bean are both pretty good quarterbacks. But, yeah, I mean, this is definitely an upset watch game if you're Kansas because I don't know how much better they really are. And I do think rolling into Stillwater after they got a big win and maybe kind of righted the ship is dangerous territory for sure. So, yeah, this will be very interesting.
Number 1. North Carolina, they roll in 3.5-point favorites right now against Miami. And the reason I say this, other than, look, I think Miami's probably better than they showed last week against Georgia Tech. But I know this like I know my name. If there's ever been a game that Mario Cristobal and Shannon Dawson will be at their pinnacle coaching, like mental clarity and please shut up about everything, will be this week. So, I mean, of course, selling it to the players, because it is one thing to, like, we've all heard the coaches say, like, listen, we lost this game, it's my fault. I didn't put you guys in a good position to win and all that. And then at the end of the day, like, nobody really takes that, like, just, it's what you say to make people feel better because, how many times can you as a coach walk into a room and go, listen, This was your fault because you didn't have the effort. Like, you can go in, but there's a very specific reason that Miami lost that game, and it was the coaches. So they have to this week win back the trust of their players a little bit. I don't think it's irreparable. I think everybody's going to get over it, but I think that Mario Cristobal and Shannon Dawson will be so focused this week that they will have all the I's dotted and T's crossed like maybe never in their lives before.
I would think so. I think, you kind of can lose sight of Miami that they were that stupid coaching decision away from being 5-0. I mean, like, everybody's laughing at the loss and everything. It's like, but yeah, they were that close to being unbeaten at nearly the halfway point. So this is going to be a great game. UNC is unbeaten. So that stupid result, like, took some of the sizzle off of this game, but there should still be just as much, even though Miami's got the one in the loss column now. Yeah, this is going to be great. Obviously, a huge showcase for Drake May and Miami. I think, like you said, they're going to be chomping at the bit and embarrassed and ready to get that bad taste out of their mouth. So this ought to be a lot of fun at Chapel Hill.